I'm Nick Harcourt. It's Guitar Center Sessions. Our guests are the Offspring, and we've got Dexter and Noodles with us. First of all, thanks for coming in and playing for us on the stage today.
Awesome. Thanks for having us. It was great.
Great to have you here.
And it's our pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you.
Seriously, you brought it to the stage. Thank you so much. So much to talk about, but let's talk about the achievements first of all. You guys have been together a long time, 30 years.
That's right. Yeah.
40 million albums sold. Quite the career. When you look at it today, do you think you've achieved what you set out to do?
Well, much more, obviously. We were just having fun. We were messing around at Greg's house, our bass player's house, and it was just a place to hang out on Saturday night, just jamming guitars, and we never thought this would happen.
When you first got together, what did you think might happen?
I don't know.
Yeah, nothing really. Maybe play some shows, drink some beer with some like-minded people.
Sure.
That was really it.
As simple as that, just getting together, playing some music, and seeing what happened.
Yeah.
It was, really was.
What about songs at the beginning? What were you playing at the beginning?
Well, I mean, I think every band plays covers, of course. You kind of get into that a little bit. But really, right from the very beginning, we wanted to write our own songs. If we'd go to a bar and see some band playing covers, it was to me, it was kind of boring. I wanted to get out there and try to write something like the bands that I loved and stuff.
What were the bands that you liked? What was the stuff that you were influenced by at the beginning?
Right. Well, I mean, really, for us, it was the Orange County punk rock bands. I think that's what got us, that's what inspired us to start a band. I mean, we always grew up loving music. We loved, I loved Kiss and whatever, all that kind of stuff, the stuff kids like. But it was really the punk rock bands, especially the ones from Orange County, that got us into wanting to be in a band. So that would be Social Distortion and TSOL, of course, Adolescence. There was a bunch of them. DI. Yeah.
We had Mike Ness on the stage here a couple of seasons ago, and he was talking about that time and talking about it really just being block parties at the time. That's all that they set out to do.
Right, yeah. I mean, there wasn't a whole, there wasn't big clubs that let us play. Every once in a while there'd be a small club. We had the Cuckoo's Nest and then later the Concert Factory, same club. But there wasn't a lot of that kind of stuff allowing punk rock bands to play on stages, for money. It was either parties or burned out warehouses, and people would just be at the door charging money for the keg or whatever. That was really it. There wasn't a whole lot of places where you could legitimately play as a punk band back then.
I think one thing that's really changed is that punk rock really was dangerous in the 80s. It's become kind of a different thing. It's become very accepted, and it's cool that the music has gotten out there and stuff. But we couldn't play a club because a club wouldn't be open long enough for you to play at. You'd do a couple shows, there'd be a riot. The cops would shut it down, and that was it.
Yeah.
So you're always chasing the venue. You're trying to find a Union Hall, VFW Hall, someplace you could play before it got shut down.
You find a place to play before they knew you were going to get them shut down.
Right.
Well, and it was the do-it-yourself kind of thing. And there was kids that would put on shows, and they would rent out a VFW hall and get like 5 or 6 hardcore bands to play. There were some bands like X would play at the Whiskey or the Roxy, but they were established and one of the few punk bands that really ever got to play places like that. I mean, the Germs were banned. They weren't allowed to ever play anymore.
Right.
And punk rock changed by the early 80s. By the time we got into it, it really was more of a hardcore scene. A lot of muscle heads, and it was a pretty tough scene.
What's your take on the fact that punk became a genre and it became mainstream and less dangerous?
Well, I mean, there's always different kinds of whatever people call punk. People are always arguing what that is. When we first heard it was the Sex Pistols and the Ramones and classic bands and bands that are still our heroes and stuff. And later on, they were the bands that I just talked about, the Orange County bands. That was kind of a different scene, a different era.
Sure.
And then there was always something different going on. The Dead Kennedys from San Francisco were very political. Minor Threat was from D.C., and they were, the straight edge movement and all that. So there's always something different going on. When it finally broke, I think it really amazed all of us, because I think Nirvana were the ones that broke the door down. Yeah. They made it possible. When we saw Teen Spirit on TV, we're like, wow, that looks like Gilman Street. Like, it looked like one of the places we were playing. It looked like a punk show.
When they were destroying their equipment on Saturday Night Live, it was like, finally, this is some, vindication for this music that we've loved. You never saw those bands on TV. Well, Fear once. on Saturday Night Live,
That's
but then
right.
they were banned and never allowed to play
Everything,
Saturday Night
right?
Live again, you know.
And people call Nirvana a grunge band, or whatever you call them, whatever. But it was just one step from that to all the other bands that came after.
Can I ask you both separately, maybe Dexter, you could start, what's your earliest memory of music?
Of music.
Yeah.
Shaking my rattle.
What
are you talking about,
You
man?
actually remember doing that?
He's a percussionist at heart, yeah.
What's the first thing you heard that grabbed your attention?
I don't know. Stories like, or questions like that are a little tough to answer sometimes. Out of everything, scan your entire life. But one of my earliest memories of music was the first record I ever bought. And that was a 45. Remember those? We had 45s back in the day.
Sure thing.
I was 5, and I bought the Jackson 5. I bought Dancing Machine. So I'm pretty proud of that, actually.
That's a pretty good one.
That's rad. Yeah, that's
yeah, you know.
Yeah. And I guess for me, it was my dad loved Simon and Garfunkel and Crosby, Stills and Nash. And I loved harmonies, so I got into that at an early age. And then I had an older cousin who had like classic rock stuff, you know, The Who and the Rolling Stones and Jimi Hendrix. And I got into that, and then Kiss, and then punk rock was like, whoa. You know, this is, you know, the Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks, and the Dickies White Vinyl EP with like 3 songs on it. And I heard those and just went, what is this? I want to know more about this. And that was it. It was done.
For sure. It is a progression, isn't it? It's Elton John, and then it's Kiss. And then it's,
Elton John.
and you might stop off at Montrose for a minute, whatever, and before you know it, someone brings over the Sex Pistols album, and you're like, wow, this is really
Everything
something.
changes.
Everything changes, yeah.
And was that really a moment where you thought, I can do this?
No.
No, not yet.
No.
When did that come?
Probably when we started going to shows and seeing bands like TSOL and the
Yeah.
Adolescents, the Vandals, all the local bands. And again, like I said, you know, it wasn't done, you know, in proper clubs. Somebody rented out the VFW hall or I remember the show at Cypress College. Did you go to that show? Somebody rented out the gym at Cypress College and put down mats on the floor in there, and seeing the Vandals and you know, Youth Brigade. I can't remember who all played that show. But
Right.
It's just crazy.
So 1984, Orange County, you've set the table a little bit with what was going on, and your first band, Manic Subsidal.
Right. Well, it's kind of the same band. We were just hanging out, you know, at Greg's house, actually, and we used to go out to shows, like Noodles was saying. We went to a show at UC Irvine, and it was Social Distortion, and they shut the doors, like, right before we got it, like, right to the turnstile. They're like, sorry, sold out. We had nothing to do, so we went to another friend's house, and we were, you know, literally pimping beer, 17 years old, in somebody's backyard where their parents weren't home, and said, hey, we should start a band. And it was just as spontaneous and not thought out as that, because we didn't play instruments. We had no idea how to play anything. He probably played. We hadn't met Noodles yet. We met him about 6 months later.
Right.
And started playing.
Well, I
with
mean,
him.
we all, you know, I knew who you were. You know, I knew you from the neighborhood and stuff.
We didn't play together till a little bit later. But it really was one of those things like, we should start a band. That would be cool. Ha ha, you know. And
Yeah, but then, as you said, you don't play instruments, so
yeah.
how do you decide who's going to play what and who's going to sing?
We figured it out that night. What do you want to play? I'll be the guitar player. I think no one wanted to say they would be the singer. I don't think anyone was that bold. So Greg chose bass that night, and I started the guitar, and there were a couple other guys. And we actually went down in the next couple months, and we all bought something and started banging around.
What made you decide to step forward and sing?
Well, I guess I started writing some songs. Yeah, I don't know. I think we all tried, actually, at one point, maybe.
Well, I know Doug sang, our friend Doug,
Right.
sang some, but I don't think he just really didn't step up and wasn't really as driven as you were.
Well, that role wasn't quite sorted out until, you know, a year later or whatever.
But you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation that you wanted to write your own songs pretty much straight away.
Yeah.
So where did those first songs come from? If you're the guy who's saying, well, I got some songs.
Right. Well, you know, we've talked about this before. When you start a punk band, there's 4 obligatory songs that you got to write, right? You got to write the I Hate Police song. Yeah. You got to write the death song, like the I'm Gonna Die song. What was the third one again?
My Girlfriend's a Bitch.
Well, My Girlfriend's
song.
a Bitch.
Yeah.
What's the fourth one? An anti-war song.
Okay.
Those are the 4. So that whole template was pretty well laid out, so I could at least start there. I had somewhere to go.
And once you started and you're doing these songs, you're starting to play out, as you mentioned. When did you officially become the Offspring?
Right, right. We were, as you said, we decided to call ourselves Manic Subsidal at the time, which is a terrible name, right? It's awful, but
There's worse.
It's trying pretty hard to be fun. Manic Subsidal, yeah.
right, right. And we actually got the chance to play on a local TV show, like, you know, your really local station, not a network or whatever, and like a, sorry, what do they call it?
Yeah, the public
service.
access. Public access TV on cable, yeah.
Which, if you get played on that, probably only 100 people see you, but to
I
us,
was going to say, I remember those stations. It was
Yeah.
like if you
Yeah,
were on there,
totally.
like,
yeah.
if your friends had cable, they could watch you.
But when we got booked on that, we're like, fucking A, this is our chance. This is our shot. We got to get our name straight right now because we don't want to blow it, you know? Don't blow this for us, man. So we thought about names for a long time. We never came up with anything that we're really stoked on.
Yeah, no one was, you know, enthused. We weren't even enthused. Offspring, all right, it's better than Manic Subsidal.
That'll do.
Nobody hated the Offspring.
Right.
So we just
Nobody
kinda
hated it.
stuck
And I
with
like that it didn't pigeonhole us. It wasn't like you were Nuclear Armageddon. You know what kind of band that is, right? It was. So yeah, we kind of just took it by default.
How'd you go from there to the early recordings, demos, singles?
Yeah, we started recording right away. I think that was a really important part of us growing as a band. You could go into they called it the recycler back then. A Craigslist type thing, right? And there was some guy that was living at his mom's house, and he had his garage converted to a studio, and he would record you for like $10 an hour. So he was in Brea, I think.
What kind of? I'm presuming it was fairly rudimentary.
Yeah.
Studios. What were you recording with?
Well, we were stoked. I don't know.
You're like, we're in a studio.
Yeah,
studio.
whatever guitars we happened to have at the time, amps, and then, you know, it was
Yeah.
all, you know, 8-track probably.
It must have been 8-track,
A lot of that
yeah.
stuff. Just,
If it was
yeah.
even that, but
Yeah.
And I don't think we had a drummer at the time, but the idea that like we could multi-track, like if we didn't have a drummer, I played drums sometimes, and then we'd go back and we'd do overdubs over it, and just that whole process of multi-tracking was such a cool thing.
That must have been revolutionary for you guys at the time.
It was amazing. Well, because like I said, we didn't really have all four of us together as a band yet, so that part was missing. And
Because you were recording as Manic Subsidal. Didn't you release something on Mystic as Manic Subsidal?
that's right, we did,
Yeah.
in '84, right?
Yeah.
That's true. So,
So that was right before I joined the band.
right. And the studio also helps you overcome your lack of ability, right? I mean, you go in there.
There's certain shortcuts.
Oh,
Yeah, like you
could
can
go
do
in
it
there.
again.
You can do it again. You can play it 3 times. You can make it sound good and stuff. So that was always a really exciting part of what we were doing.
Let's jump forward a little bit. That's the beginning. We're setting the table again. Moving through to the early 90s. Where was the band at then? You were obviously serious by now.
Right. Well, we eventually
Well,
we
yes
put out
and no. I mean, we were serious about being able to go out and still play gigs and stuff and tour, you know, when we had summer vacations and stuff. But you were, you know, in school. I had a job, not a great job, but I had a job, you know, and still would go to school. We didn't ever think the band was going to be, you know, what we did for a living. It was our hobby.
When did you realize that it was what you were going to do for a living, that this was a job?
When Smash came out in '94.
Tell us about the impact of that for you
when
guys.
Smash came out. Well, you know, we were, even after Ignition had come out, that was a record before Smash, and it was an Epitaph, and it did kind of well. It was just, there was no way a band like us was going to make it. I mean, the top of the universe was Bad Religion, and I mean, they were huge, a huge punk band, and they maybe sold 200,000, whatever it was, a number that was way bigger.
The Ramones didn't even get airplay back then. You know, the Ramones get way more airplay now than they did.
Sure.
You know, and they were already doing like, you know, farewell tours in the mid-90s, you know.
And the great thing about Bad Religion was they started a label so that they could release the music that they liked.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And they signed us, which was great. But that whole thing about breaking or getting whatever, it just wasn't going to happen for us. And so when Smash came out, it really took everybody by surprise.
How did that impact you guys, though? I mean, all of a sudden, you've been working away for a while, and the music crosses over into the mainstream. You mentioned that Nirvana sort of kicked the doors down.
Right.
And then a whole slew of bands had the opportunity to break through. And you guys, you were everywhere. I was programming alternative rock radio at the time, and I remember the Offspring. You guys exploded everywhere.
was a very good year.
Well, it was like Nirvana came out, what, in 92 was Nevermind, right? And then about a month or 2 months before Smash came out, Dookie came out. And alternative radio was going nuts with that. And then we were just right on the tails of that, kind of in their slipstream, those were the
same time, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm interested to know. I mean, did you consider those other bands the opposition? Were they allies?
I think, more allies. I think there was some competition, for sure. But I was stoked for those guys. I mean, I'd seen those guys play at Gilman Street, before Trey was even in the band. I thought, wow, Mike and Billy Joe have these harmonies, and these great hooks and stuff. And what a great band. So when I heard them on the radio, I was like stoked. This is a great band. Finally, some good music on the radio. That's the same way I felt about Nirvana, So
it's like more friends to the party. I don't think it was so much a competition.
I think the media tried to make it, certain.
For sure.
I mean, remember finding magazines at truck stops in Middle America, on tour, the Green Day versus the Offspring, and it was like, I don't know, Tiger Beat, also published this other kind of just one-off magazine. It's like, what is the point? It's hilarious. I still have that too, actually, somewhere in a box somewhere.
It's interesting if you think about it that bands like Green Day, Nirvana were on majors. You guys were on an indie. You have the #1 selling indie album of all time. How does that feel at this point in your career to have that as a part of your legacy?
Well, it's kind of funny, as Noodles has pointed out a lot of times, because records don't sell anymore. That's a record that might not be broken, right? Which is kind of funny.
Not for a while anyways, yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's great. We went to Epitaph because we really liked Epitaph, and they signed us. And when Smash took off, we really were we were invested in it. We wanted to be part of the culture. We thought the whole indie thing was great. We really wanted to take it with them. I think people forget that when an indie band takes off, they immediately go to a major. And I could name some examples. I don't know if I should. Can you? Not to bag, but I mean like Beck went from Bong Rip to Nine Inch Nails.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just different.
There's not.
It's just different.
Yeah, but we thought it'd be really cool. Like, no, we're gonna stick with it. We're gonna stay with Epitaph. They were really committed. They really wanted to take this all the way, and it was cool. It was a really great time.
And we worked more together with them, and pooled our resources to get this all done. See where we could take this.
There was a real sense of camaraderie at that time too, because Smash had come out, but we were all kind of coming up together. It was us and Rancid and NoFX and Pennywise and stuff, and we all went on tour together. We opened up for all those bands before our record took off, and so.
And interest really in all those bands was building too. It really was a scene that was really coming alive and kind of thriving. And it felt really cool to be part of that. And have these brothers in arms.
Can you talk about Ixnay on the Hombre and how that came about as a result of the previous work and your success?
Right. Yeah. Well, gosh. Well, Smash took us. For almost 2 years, we were on tour nonstop. And then we had some time off and decided, well, we got to follow this one up.
Was there any pressure? I mean, did you feel any pressure?
Sure, on both sides. We had punks saying, oh, you sold millions of records, you're now sellouts. You're on MTV, fuck you guys, sellouts. And we wanted, we're still punk, man. So we wanted to prove that, and at the same time, we wanted to follow up this record that did really well, and we made Smash the way we made all the records before. We never imagined we were going to sell, platinum and be, on rotation on, video channels. So, we kind of realized we want to compete with all this, but let's not. Let's just do a good record. Let's go in and just do a good record. Try not to just try to put all that stuff aside. Try not to be too punk, try not to be too pop.
When you're lucky enough to have a record that does really well, you always ask yourself, well, what now, right? And I think for us, we didn't want to make Smash #2. I think it was time to widen the circle a little bit, and that's why we did songs on that record like Gone Away and stuff, and some different sounding stuff.
As you were going into that, though, was that planned out? I mean, it sounds like it was. It sounds like you needed to expand the sound a little bit.
It wasn't. I think if you're trying to write songs, you should definitely not edit yourself during the songwriting process. Go ahead and write whatever comes to mind. You can always rein it in later or pick out the ones that represent where you want to be and where you want to go at the time. So that was just one of the many songs that we came up with, but we liked how it was and wanted that to be part of that record.
We had back-to-back successes, colossal, really. Were you starting to get used to this?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think there was a lot of backlash on Ixnay. It felt, I don't know, there's always that sophomore slump, they call it, right? And I think people really jumped on. That was kind of the big story on that. It was like, oh, it didn't do as well as Smash. And of course it wasn't going to. We didn't expect that at all, you know. I think the most important thing was to tell people that, hey, you maybe have only heard of us now, but we've actually been a band for 10 years, and we want to keep on going and just be a band and put out records.
When you say backlash, are you talking critically or are you talking from the original fans?
Well, I guess critically.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if we've ever been a hugely acclaimed band.
Yeah, no, I don't think the critics have ever loved us.
I just, you know, we took a little bit of a turn for a minute, and I'm really glad we did it because it allowed us then to be able to do anything after that. And when we came back and did Americana, then it was bigger than ever, so that was great.
So 9 albums in, you guys have toured relentlessly, and at this point, quite a career. You decided last year to go out and do a 20th anniversary tour of Smash. Tell us how that felt, and why did you decide to do that and revisit those songs?
Right. I mean, it was such a special album for us and such a milestone for us as a band. It just kind of seemed natural, I think, to go out and kind of celebrate it 20 years later. People were asking us about it. We still play a lot of those songs in our set. And, I mean, it's not like we invented the let's play one of our albums all the way through, but we just decided to go out and do it because we thought it would be fun.
Going out and playing those songs again, who were the people coming to see you?
Kids.
Yeah.
You know, right?
Yeah. You would see the odd, you know, sprinkling of salt and pepper hair out there. You know?
Like you.
But like me, exactly, you know.
Actually, it's very cool because you see people of all ages, right?
You really do, yeah.
And but whenever we go out, you know, if we haven't been to Europe for a year, we go back. There's all kids in the front row, and they weren't there last time. They were too young last time. So it's really cool. There seems to be this new, fresh group of kids that comes in every couple of years.
Are the songs reinvigorated by revisiting them?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. There was actually a couple songs on Smash that we just never played live.
That's what I was thinking, because I know you played the album. So bringing those songs to the stage for the first time.
We actually had to go and rehearse them and practice them. And learn them.
Yeah.
Actually, so that was kind of fun.
When you go on the road today, compared with 20 years ago, it's got to be a different experience. First of all, you're older. And secondly, you've got much more experience of doing that. How different is it today?
I mean, you still get that feeling. It's still that rush when you go and play in front of a live audience. It's that immediacy of it. It's the reaction you're getting. It's the energy, and that's why we still do it, because it's really fun.
And there's still new places, you know, to go and see. Well, just a year and a half ago, we did a full 9-city tour of Russia, which was amazing. You know, that was very different. You know, brought back a lot of the same feelings as when we were first touring, when it was all new. Going to Russia was pretty new. Everything was just so different. It was, you know, you're up on the train, you know, looking at everything. You're walking around the town, you know, ordering food.
We've been to Moscow before. We've been to St. Petersburg before, but we went like deep. Like we went so far in that we were right on top of Mongolia. Like it was really that far in and stuff.
Siberia. So. Couple of cities into Siberia.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit more? Because I'm imagining that the Russian kids probably don't see too many Western punk bands.
Sketchy. Man, it was sketchy.
Yeah.
There were a couple plane rides that were sketchy, actually. Right?
Yeah, we flew on the TU-134.
The wooden toilet on the airplane and stuff.
Wooden toilet seat.
Stuff like that. But,
old Soviet era. Even the Russians, I had Russian fans when even us Russians don't fly on those planes. We don't like those.
Yeah. You know, when you go someplace that's a little more off the beaten path, like, it's kind of a mixture of two things, where sometimes you go to places where they're so stoked because bands never come there, and you have these great shows, and sometimes it's so far out there that you're almost like a curiosity, like, what is this thing, this American rock band? And a lot of times it's a little bit of a mixture of the two, and I think it was kind of like that in Russia, but overall you could really see that, like wow, this is crazy. The guy that sponsored the shows. The promoter that took us over said, he had Deep Purple, I think, was like the last band he brought over, and
Wow.
something like that. So just no one ever raised their hand and signed up for a trip like that. And we thought, oh, heck yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And one of the takeaways for me was, you know, it's a pretty serious culture. And there's not a lot of smiling just in, you know, walking through town, driving in town. I mean, you kind of make your way, you put your head down, you get where you're going. I saw more smiles on more faces at that show. You know, there wasn't the I'm rocking out standard pose. These people were just smiling. They saved it all up, came out to the show. And, you know, it was really kind of like night and day, you know, walking through the town and then coming in and they save it all up, just smiling, just having a good time.
You know, everybody grows up a little bit, and punk rockers grow up a little bit. We get older. And with the career that you guys have had, are you aware of the influence that you've had on another generation of musicians? Are you aware of your role?
Yeah, I would say no, definitely not at all. Sometimes people say I grew up listening to you or whatever, but I don't think that registers for us at all. I mean, I remember even when the whole thing was really going off, like you hear a lot of bands that go, they sound just like NoFX. They sound like whatever. There's certain bands that other bands emulated a lot, but I never heard people say, oh, they sound like an Offspring knockoff or whatever. There was never anything like that. So I guess I never took it as like we were really breaking ground. But I don't know.
I've had, other bands that we've toured with, I've had, younger bands say very flattering things to us, and I appreciate it. But I don't really take it on. It's very nice, but I don't know. I have a hard time taking that on. And, at the same time, I love, bands like TSOL and the Ramones and the Dickies, and we'll tell them that, and have told them that, but I don't know, it's just different. It's 'cause,
What inspires you to do it today? What inspires you to get up and continue to do it?
It's still great. It's still, the challenge of trying to write great music, and when you get something, which is hard to do, you get something that you feel really good about, and you're connecting with people. I mean, if you're in a band, you're making music to try to connect with your audience, right? That's what you're trying to do. And when you get that connection, it's the best feeling.
What about inspiration from music being made today? You talked about some of your early influences. Are the bands out there, is the musicians out there today that you guys draw any inspiration from?
It's just crazy because it's so diverse out there now, right?
When we were just as fans of punk rock, you had rock and roll, then you had disco, then you had punk, and
that's about it.
And the punks were the bottom of the barrel you were spit on. And now you have hip hop, you have metal, you have different kinds of metal, you have punk, different kinds of punk, different dance stuff, electronic, and all these kids hang out together, more or less, and go from one show to the other. You have these big festivals, they just had Coachella. There was all different kinds of music being played there, from AC/DC to, house, music. So it's very different than when we were growing up. I think that's a good thing. So, and you can take, inspiration from all of that, especially the really good ones.
when I was a kid, you picked a genre. It's like if you were into Deep Purple, for example, you probably weren't into the Jackson 5.
Right.
Today, I think that perhaps with the advent of the iPod, really, where anybody can put a playlist together, people listen to everything.
Everything, huh?
Yeah. Everyone's genre hops.
We saw that in Europe when we were first touring over there, way before America.
At festivals, for sure.
In the U.S., if the festival was a metal festival or a country festival, and that was it.
Yeah.
And it was much more eclectic in Europe, many years before it started happening in the U.S.
As you look forward, you guys are just going to keep doing this, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's fun, I mean, we were a band for a long time before anything happened, and that's why we did it, because we really enjoyed it, and we're still loving it. We're still having fun, so... Right? You still having fun?
I love this. I can't imagine doing anything else, yeah.
Well, it's great to have you guys performing for us on the stage here at Guitar Center. Great to sit down and get a little bit of a perspective on the history of the band. Thank you so much.
Right on.
Well, thank you
Really
for having us.
appreciate
It's a real pleasure
Thanks,
to be
guys.
here.
That was fun.
That does it for another episode of Guitar Center Sessions. My thanks to the Offspring, for Dexter and Noodles for sitting on the couch with us. I'm Nick Harcourt. Until the next time, thanks for watching.